So good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this webinar on A2K's Revtag version 4's new features. On the webinar today, we have myself, Dave Mangham, and also Brendan Upton. We appreciate that you're all very busy, so we'll keep this webinar short and sweet. But if you do have any questions, please submit them through the webinar chat channel, or alternatively use the feedback form via the web form via the help icon on the Revtag ribbon. We'll look to respond as soon as we can. We'll not respond at the end of the webinar so that it doesn't mean the webinar drags on. And we do appreciate your feedback and requests, and we'll look to implement in forthcoming versions of Revtag. So let's crack on and let's get started with the first new feature. Okay, so one of the first new features that I'm going to touch on is the new feature for dimensioning lengths of straights. So go into the configurator here. Let's just change this to duct. So we're going to do duct system, and you'll notice I've got 3 duct systems already modeled here in the sample model. And what I'm going to focus on is the tagging of the lengths of the duct. So a couple of things to note here. We've got new, delete, rename, and duplicate. So this is the new button that we've introduced. So if I just do a new configuration, and we'll call it duct length to start with, and we'll save that. And of course, we've got no tags assigned at the moment, so we use our add button here, and then we go in here, and we should be able to find the duct length tag here, but the length tag BMA standard, and then we'll associate that with the routing preference which we've used, which is the radius elbow and shoe takeoff. So I think it was that one there, duct radius elbow shoe takeoff. So we'll just make sure that we've got those. Definitely radius elbow. So we'll shift and select 3 and save that. So we've got 3 family types there, the routing preferences. And the thing that the new feature that we've added is this option at the end here, which is skip tag length with a plus or minus 5 mil tolerance. So the reason that we've provided this option is that if you had a front sheet, for example, that nominates that your standard straight lengths are, say, for example, 1400, then there'd be no point in tagging every single standard straight length. Therefore, what we've done is we've introduced this field here, and if I put in there 1400, what that means that it'll ignore any of the straights which are 1400, but also any straights that are 1405 over length or 1395, so ever so slightly underneath the 1400 length. You can obviously go back and retrospectively tag those straights if you wish with a different config without this skip tag length. So now that I've set this up, what I will do is actually rename this one to 1400. So I can see that it's duct length 1400 and save that. So we've got a config now which is duct length 1400, and it's there in the configuration. I'm actually, just to demonstrate this, I'm going to duplicate this config, but call it 1395, 1385. Remember what I modeled. Save that and just change that to 1385. So I've got another one, I can actually duplicate this now, and I think the other one I did was 1420. So we've just duplicated this again. We're going to put 1420 in here. So capturing different lengths, finished straight lengths, dependent on whether or not how the manufacturer is manufacturing the straights. So now in the configs, I've got 1420, 1385, 1400, all using the same tag, all going to tag the same routing preference family types, but with different skip options here. So I'll save this config like so, and now I've got to remember what I've done. Just make that straight. And this one is 1385 standard straight. So if I go to my annotate option here and pick the 1385 length in the config and do pick run, go from end to end, my expectations are that it will not tag all the straights which are 1385. It will only tag the straights which are not 1385, which is exactly what it's done there. So you can see that it's only picking up the ones that are 1385 just to prove that the other configs are working. We'll just check that one. This is the 1400 straight. So if I go Revtag and annotate, and this time we pick the 1400 and pick the run end to end, and once again, as I would expect, it's only picking up the straights and a different lengths, of course, because these are different lengths standard straights. And then finally, just to prove once again that the 1420 work, we go like that, and same again. So we've got an even shorter one there. So that's the a couple of new features that you've seen. In the configurator, the duplicate option, and also this skip tag lengths. Okay, so the next feature that we've implemented in version 4 is the auto insertion of fabrication hangers. Just a note, point out that this function will only work with fabrication hangers, and it's reliant also on you having hangers available in your service. So as you can see here on the right hand side, I've selected any of the services, for example, supplying a low pressure, and jump into the hangers. You can see that we've got a selection of different hangers available here. We give you the functionality to, so I've got just showing you, I've got 3 iterations of fabrication systems, services, and if we jump into the Revtag ribbon, we've got this new option here, insert hanger, and we click on the insert hanger, it brings up this dialog box. It defaults with a pitch or distance between hangers of 400. This obviously can be overridden if you so wish. Oops, that's a bit too much. 1500, the default is 400, so I'll leave it at that. And when we do pick run and we go from one end to the other, it then pops up with another dialog box which gives you the option to select the hanger which is available within your button palette here, your hanger palette. So if I click the drop down there, the options of hangers. If I just say, for this example, do OK, and it'll run through and it'll populate, as you can see, starting from 150 from the end of the duct, run, to populate the hanger. We'll just do that again. This is a continuous routine as well, so you notice I have to press escape to stop it, otherwise I would end up going from there to there. And it's calling again for the hanger type. We could go the 20 by 20 profile hanger, and that's put those in. As you can see, I'll just press escape this time and go back to the option. Let's just change that to say 1200. Pick this final run, from there to there. This time we'll put the double 40x40 hanger in there. I'll put the back-to-backs in. So that's just to show you there's the double 40x40 there. So that's just to show you that this tool is now operational. We deliberately hard-coded it to prevent it from encroaching within 150 mil of a connect. That's why you've got this odd pitch here, in case you're wondering. Obviously, you've got freedom to move these hangers to wherever you so wish, and you will get instances where it's got a pitch there, and then it's got a over the 150 available, so it has put one more in there. Again, unfortunately, we can't control that at the moment. Maybe that's down the track. We'll look into doing that. So that's the auto insertion of hangers, which hopefully will help you speed up your workflows. So this next new feature will allow you to ignore the nominated number of objects prior to the start of the tag routine for that specific tag. What I mean by that is, if we go into the configurator here, we'll create a new config and call it, let's do size, for example. So the advantage of this is you could set up multiple, a multi-tag config to do everything in one hit, but you don't want all the tags to appear on the first object. This gives you the ability to move the one of the tags along from the start of the run. So let's just grab the size, obviously. So we'll go metal size, duck metal size. Family will grab the sample run that we've got, which is rectangular duck square elbow. Save that. So we'll just push them to, let's say, left and bottom. So that the location of the tag will offset that by, say, 100. Now, let's say we only want to put the size on every fourth object, but we don't want to start at the beginning. We'll start at the third. So offset that means offset from beginning. We'll save that. And go back, we'll annotate this run, we'll pick the run, we've got a size already set up in the run, and what it's done is actually skipped 1, 2, 3, and it's gone to that one, and then it's skipped again and that one, so it'll do the intervals and skip from the first one. So I'm now going to hand you over to Brendan to show you a couple more of the. Over to you, Brendan.
Thanks, Dave. So I've got a few more new features here of Revtag in version 4 that I'm keen to show you. So let's keep moving through Revit here, and I'll take you through them.
Okay, so one of the new features we've got here is the ability to both rejoin a run that is split and also resplit to a different length a run that's already split up. You'll notice that in the split join tool dialog box, we have these new options here of join and resplit. So the way it basically works is, let's say I split this run up at 1400, just like you always could with the tool. Let's say, first of all, I want to, for whatever reason, I want to rejoin all this up into just one long length for each rather than the segments. I can jump back into the tool and I can select the join option. And then if I pick it on again, it will convert it all back into each straight segment. Alternatively, let's say I wanted to, first of all, I split the run up at 1400, so I'll split that again. So I want to split it like that, or I've received a model that is already split, and then you need to split it up into a different straight length other than 1400. Let's say you're using a different standard, or you're fabricating a different length for whatever reason. your fabricator. And let's say I need to change this to, let's say, 1380. I can choose the resplit option here, set it to 1380, and when I pick the run, it'll resplit that out as you can see. So that's one of the new features that we've implemented in version 4 of Revtag. Okay, so another update we have here with version 4 of Revtag is the ability to expose some of the fabrication properties that at this point in time out of the box in Revit are not taggable. So some examples of some of those parameters that you can't actually tag out of the box yet with fabrication parts in Revit are things like top extension and the bottom extension and inner radius on bends. You've also got things like for a transition, extension in, extension out, and offset, the offset parameters as well, width and depth. Okay. So what we've implemented in Revit here in version 4 of Revtag is the ability to map or transport these values of these fabrication parts over into Revit shared parameters that you can then tag. Okay, so I'll show you how this works. Basically, we've got a fabrication properties button here. And what you can do is you can basically list on the left-hand column here, you can enter in the fabrication property or dimension name that you wish to bring across. And then in the second column here on the right-hand side, all you got to do is enter in the name of a shared parameter that you have created or that exists in the project that you want to populate that value over into. Okay, so I have some pre-populated ones here for this example, and the tool itself is going to ship, version 4 of Revtag is going to ship with these values populated as default. These are in fact BIMPOS standard shared parameters that we've got here that are going to ship with the tool. So for you, those of you that don't know how to create shared parameters, or you don't want to, you have to create your shared parameters, you can use these pre-existing BIMPOS shared parameters from the BIMPOS template. And particularly if you're a BIMPOS subscriber, ideally that's going to be the way to go because it's you've got some standards happening there. However, the tool itself will allow you to use any shared parameter that you want. Okay, so I'll show you how it works. Basically, you can see I've got some pre-populated ones here in the grouping under set in the properties. So these are all BIMPOS shared parameters here that are being populated. The way that it works is if I jump back into the fabrication properties dialog box, I can basically type in whatever parameter I want. So I know I've got one here called actual, BIMPOS parameter here called actual throat radius. If I click update on that, close, and I come across to this example, you can see that it started to populate those values.
And so now these values are starting to be populated. We can now start to tag these because they are those shared parameters. So, you know, I can start tagging by category. There's the radius value coming through, 250. You know, I can start to tag these certain elements if I've got my tags set up, which I have some standard tags here already. I can start to tag certain things like the connector information as well. And for that, you know, we have a Revtag configuration set up, even better, right? So let's do one more change here. Let's say I edit that bend. I'll edit the part and I'll make let's say the top extension 200. Fine, okay, so I can see that's changed on the bend there. This won't have updated yet here in these values because what I need to do is I need to come in here to this last step and go, the fabrication properties is update that. But once I've done that and the update's complete, that value is now populated in there. So if I have a configuration set up, which I do here for the fabrication tag, I've got a few tags here with some placement options already set using my Revtag tool, as you would have seen in previous videos. I can pick my particular configuration that I want, pick elements, and bang, my bend is now documented and detailed. Okay. If I make one further change here just to show that one more time, let's edit the connectors. So let's say I go connector 1 and I turn that into, let's say, a 50 by 50 EA. Why? Okay. So it's not changed there at the moment, but if I now update, you can see that it's now changed. Okay, so one more new feature is Revtag version 4 here is the ability to split duct and pipe in the vertical, which you were not previously able to do. So I'll quickly run you through how this feature works. And one thing to keep in mind here is the union that you're using and the position of the connectors. I'll take duct as a quick example here. I've got some union examples here laid out, and it's all to do with the position of the connectors. It has a bearing on how this tool works. If you have a look at this example here, there's a union. I've got the connector in the center for both sides. So in other words, the duct will recess in and overlap over that connector. That can have a bearing of how the tool works. If you have a look at another example of a union here, I've got the connectors on the outer face. And you can see if I have a look at the properties of that union, you can see the gasket length there is 4 mil. So that has a bearing on how this tool works. And that'll make sense in a sec when I show you, if you keep that in mind. If I come across here to the tool now, I've got a 3D view here with a couple of examples of duct and pipe. If I go to the tool and I go to the splitting tool, so let's say I want to split this ductwork at 1400. Okay, I need to make sure that I also enter this correct gasket length here. So keeping in mind that I've got 4 mil for the union, I need to put 4 mil in there. I'll show you what happens in a sec if you get that wrong. The tool will pop up a message and flag it for you. But if I keep this at 1400 with a 4 mil gasket, okay, if I pick the run, I can show you now how this verticals will work. If I go start, end, okay, so you can see that that's now split that run into the 1400 pieces, okay, as we can clearly see there, and it's worked in both in the vertical and the horizontal, so that's quite well. Okay, I can do the pipe as well. Let's say I want to do that at 3 meters, and I know that for this particular pipe, the gasket length or that union piece is 95. So I pick the run once again in this 3D view. You'll see that the vertical splits up quite nicely into those 3 meter runs. So that's working well. Okay. One other thing that's worth noting here is that the join and the resplit, these new features of the split tool, will work in the vertical sense as well. So I can, for example, if I want to rejoin this duct run up, I can choose the join option. I'm going to pick run. And once again, in this 3D view, I can connect it back up into one long length for each segment. Okay. Now, just to show you what happens if you get that union length wrong, let's say I want to put this back to 1400, and let's say I put 2 mil here instead of 4 mil for the gasket length. We'll see what happens here when I go to just put this right now. You can see that the tool will actually flag that for me and say that the gasket length when connecting was 4 mil, but I've put 2 mil. I set 2 mil. Do you want to cancel the operation? So the tool gives you an option here to, if you do get it wrong, to be able to cancel operation and go back and correct it. If I was to say, no, I don't want to cancel it, it's going to keep splitting up the run, but it's going to get those lengths wrong. Okay, you can see that's now come out at 1398 because I've got the gasket length wrong. So just be aware of that. Okay, but yes, as I said, the ability to join and resplit these runs up into different lengths is now possible in the vertical. And there you have it. So that's splitting in vertical now possible in Revtag version 4. Okay, and so thanks everyone. And with that, I'll hand you over to Dave to round up this webinar. So back to you, Dave.
Thanks a lot, Brendan. So that brings the webinar pretty much to a close. As you can see from the slide, the installers will be available on the Content Lounge as per that link on the slide. We're supporting the versions from 2017 through to 2020, and we're also now going to be supporting any work sharing on a BIM 360 work sharing environment. So once again, thanks very much for your time and for joining us on this webinar. We hope you get some great usage out of the new version of Revtag, and please don't forget, if you've got any questions or any suggestions, use the feedback channel through the help link on the ribbon, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks and goodbye.